So that's why I'm not sure if you can see me. Now. Hi. Now you can see me. Okay. Welcome to this workshop. I will share my screen in full. Welcome to this workshop in Rhino. I am going to show you today some essential commands and shortcuts that I normally use during my during my modeling sessions. And I think more people will join soon. But to start, I would really like to know if you can just type in the chat of the Zoom where you are coming from. And I would really appreciate it as well. And if someone can also just text if you can hear me well. I am connecting here with a microphone instead of the one from my laptop. So please let me know if it works. Okay, so while you text that in the chat where you are coming from, I will start. Today, I will start with the introduction of myself. I am an architect and an educator, and I have teaching experience across international institutions. Basically, I teach different softwares to help architecture students that are more or less Rhino, Grasshopper, Revit, Adobe Creative Cloud. And I am also very happy because recently in my Instagram, I reached 10K followers. So thank you, everyone. I think all of you know me through my Instagram. So thank you for your support. And basically, I just place these screenshots so that you can see what else is my content. I share tips generally about everything that I've learned so far during my education and my professional career. And this is more or less what I share, which is my I have a portfolio series. So if you're building your portfolio, you can have a look. I'm also starting right now to share my Grasshopper series, which is parametric design. And these blue icons, I think you have seen already, because that's the Rhino series that I did some weeks ago. Here I'm sharing the screenshot of my website so that you can also visit and have a look if you want to know all the projects I've been working on, and also maybe you can get some inspiration. Some of them are older than others, but yeah, you can just go and check it out. It's not finished yet, but but you can just go and have a look. And then this is another section in my website, which are the reviews, the portfolio reviews, which basically explains that I offer portfolio feedback and consulting. So if you're building your portfolio in architecture or design, and if you want someone to help you with that, then you can go to my website and have a look and just check on the different options that there exist, and I can just help you out. So to start, what is Rhino? So Rhino is a 3D modeling software, which is basically used for digital fabrication, product design, industrial design. But in this case, we will be focusing in architecture. I'm sure that whatever topic you are in, if you are an industrial designer or a product designer, you will also learn something from this workshop. So what makes Rhino different is that it works with NURBS instead of polygons. In this, that's kind of the reason what makes Rhino so powerful. And what NURBS are, it's I like to see it as if it's Illustrator compared with Photoshop. So Photoshop uses pixels and Illustrators uses vectors. And Rhino is like Illustrator, so it keeps everything kind of as smooth as it is. It's also very powerful because it's compatible with tools like Grasshopper for parametric design, and it's also used for high precision designs that are later used for fabrication, CNC, or 3D printing. These are the types of geometries that exist, and we will try to cover all of them in this workshop. So I just listed them here for you to have a look. So now we will start with the workshop. So as a little introduction, this will be the topics and objectives that we will be looking at today. Basically, we will start by designing massing and base geometry. Then we will do a circulation and spatial elements. And at the end, we will have a look into context and environment. What I mean by this is that we will try to cover these three areas as much as possible, as much as time allows us. And then when I wanted to design something for this workshop, I wasn't sure what to do because at the beginning I had in my head first which are the commands I want to teach or the shortcuts, and then I started designing. But normally it's the other way around. Like you have an idea, a design, and then you start doing with the commands that you know. But in this case, since it was the other way around, it was a bit challenging. Still, I got inspiration from these pictures that you can see in this slide, and some of them I got from websites or yeah, like portfolios. So you can have here the links to them. But I wanted basically something that looked bigger, like in a big scale and with kind of repetition and still kind of clean geometry. So this was the inspiration and this was the final result. So today, this is what we will design. I kind of imagined it as a convention center. And okay, so this is kind of the final geometry, and this render is made with Kick Render AI, which is a very powerful rendering tool. This is another visualization, so you can see more or less I wanted to design something a bit smooth, minimalistic, that covers a bit of this inspo that I showed you previously. And this is kind of the next visual. Okay, so that's it for the intro. And now let's go to Rhino. We will start in a normal layer. You can call it layer 1. And since we want to design this model, which is kind of like a convention center, we want to do something big. So make sure that your units inside Rhino are set to meters. You can select the units here in the bottom part. You just select in meters. You can just right click and then select unit settings. And then here you have the meters, or here you can change it to meters. Another thing that I really find useful is in the properties menu, you right click and then you click here in help. And in this menu, when you have it on, you can have here all the kind of information about Rhino. And when you click on a command, let's say a rectangle, here you have all the information about what that command does. So you do this, for example, you draw a box and you have exactly the info about that command. So that's kind of it. Another thing that we will be using is the here the Osnap menu and the selection filter menu. So here you can activate them by just typing in the command bar selection filter and show Osnap. I won't do it because I have them activated already, but in your Rhino, I think you will have them here in the bottom part of your Rhino. Okay, now that I have that said, I will start very quickly. I will turn on the rectangle command. I will just jump back here into my properties and I will go to my normal layer. I will activate the grid snap in the middle, in the bottom menu, sorry, and you will click here. And as you can see, you can draw a rectangle just like so. Like you can click on another corner and then you will have your rectangle. However, I will press on escape in the in my keyboard and I will select again the rectangle and I will press here in the command bar center. So you click right there and you press in where you want your rectangle to start. And then you can either do it manually, but what I'm doing is doing everything kind of very precise. So I will do the measurements manually, like typing in manually the numbers. So I will do 100 meters times 80. So I will do 100, 80. And with that, I press enter, and then I have this rectangle. Then I go to my perspective view. What I will do is I will select this rectangle and run the planar surface command. Now I will select the planar now I will select the initial curve and I will run offset, and I will offset it inwards. I can set the distance in the command bar and I will set it inwards to 10 meters or maybe even more. Let's say 20 meters, something like this. So now that I have this, I will run the split command and I will select my surface because I want that to get split. And then I will select the cutting objects and then press enter. Then I will select the outer part of the split surface, and selecting the surface that is remaining, I will run the rebuild command. You can set your units or your numbers however you want, but I have them like this, so I always leave them like so. And then I just press OK. Now that you have this, you need to see the points that you are manipulating. So you will turn on the points on command, and you press here and then press enter. And now this is why you use the selection filter menu, because if you select everything just like this, you will see that in the properties menus as type, you see various. And that means that it's really, you have everything selected. In this case, I only want to select these control points. And you can just select them and with control on your keyboard, starting to deselect all the other things. And that's one way to do it. But how I do it, and that saves me a lot of time, is with the selection filter menu. You press control on your keyboard. If you have a Mac, then that's the command. And you hover up this menu and you just press the control points. And when you do that, you will see this kind of gray rectangle that is on. That means you have the selection filter activated only for control points. So when you like do a selection, then you will only be selecting the control points. So let's do this, and then you will use the gumball with the arrow on top, and you will move this control point 16 units up. Now you will select the surface and you will run the shrink trimmed surface command. And now we have the control points. Instead of being outside of the surface, they are completely inside. And this helps us to manipulate the surface in a more direct way. So in this way, you will hover up again in the selection filter menu, and you press here in control points. You select here the control points, these center ones. And since we want to have this curved kind of roof, you select them, and with the gumball, you click on here and you type something like -12, for example. And this is what we will have. So now we select the surface and we run points off to turn off the points, and we will move it up 16 units. Now what we want to do is we select this initial curve and we run planar surface again. And this planar surface, we will move it up with the gumball, or we will extrude it up. In the gumball, you have this kind of circle, so you click on it and you drag your surface up until you have it like a little volume like this. Now, when we have this, you use the command move face. You select the face you want to move, which is this top part, press enter, and then in the command bar, you press here to boundary. That's very important that you need to click here. So you press there and then you press the boundary, and this is what you have. Actually, I did it wrong. Let me redo it again, because this curve, I need to offset it towards the interior. In this time, I will do it with 10 units. And now I will do the same process. So planar surface, and then here I will extrude it a bit up, and then move face, select the top face, enter to boundary, select the boundary, and then it gets attached automatically. Now the roof you selected, and with the gumball you press here in the like in the little circle and type something like 0.3 just to give it a little extrusion. Now in the top view, you will go to, or actually you can start now organizing everything in layers. So you select your volume and here I already did some layers. So you just create a new layer and name it as volume, right click and change object layer. And then in this one as well, you create a new layer, and I placed it in the roof layer. So whenever you want to change something from layer, you just click on that object, right click, and then change object layer wherever you want it to be. So now that we have that, we go on the top view and we will draw a circle, so with the circle command, exactly in the middle. So be sure to have the grid snap activated. Then you click here, and then I use a diameter of 20 units. You can use the diameter that you prefer. And once you have the circle, you can move it up just to have something like this. And we want to do this kind of hole over here. So first we will run the make hole command for this circle. So make hole, select the curves, enter, and then select the surfaces, and then enter again, drag it down, click, and then you have the the circle kind of in the whole of the building. Now we want to continue doing this abstraction. So what we can do is just on the rectangle menu or in this command, you have this cascade of rectangles. So you click on that, and then you go here on the rectangle vertical. And with this, you will click first in one of the corners of our model. You will drag it and you will type 40 because we want it to be exactly in the same length as the diameter of our circle. And then for the top part, you will go on the back part of your model and you will click here until you select the top part of your roof. So you click on there, and here the curve, we will type the move command from the center, from the middle, sorry, to the middle of this. And then we just move this a little bit in front. And then we will run the same command again, make hole, we select the curve, enter, and then this, enter, and then you drag it, you click, and then you have this already done. Okay, now that we have these curves, we can use the selection filter. So press Ctrl on your keyboard and then you go to curves. So you are making sure that you will only select curves. So you click or you select in your Rhino, and here in the properties panel, you can make sure that you are selecting only the curves. So 5 closed curves. And with this, you don't delete them, you do a new layer, and then you place them here. I created a new layer already and named it as guides. And here we will change the object layer to that so that they are hidden, but still they are our guides for our whole thing. So now we will see that here we have kind of these corners that are coming out, and that's something we don't want. First of all, I will increase the transparency of my thing just to have a better look. And here I will go here to my surface command. And then here you have also a cascade for surface creation. So you click on there and you go down until you find the vertical plane. You click in there and then you will draw a vertical plane. So you will click where your plane wants to start and then click again where you want your plane to be finished and then just drag it up. So now we will select our plane and you will use the copy command and then you will press here in this corner and then move it to the other side, click and then enter in your keyboard. And then with this, you will easily use the trim command. You will select the cutting objects, which are these panels that we just draw. And then you will select kind of these things that are going out. I have a little bit of the red and a little bit of the blue coming out. So I select both and then press enter. And then you can just delete both surfaces. Now you will select our volume and you can see we have an open poly surface and that's something that we don't want. We always have to have something closed. So you select your poly surface and just use the command cap. And with that you have already a closed solid poly surface. Now for the roof as well, you select the roof and you have an open solid poly surface. So you use the cap command and then you have a closed solid poly surface. Okay, now we want to round these edges. So we will use the blend edge command. You run the blend edge command and here you can select all the edges that you want to smooth, like let's say you don't want so sharp corners, you want something smooth, but you already have a 3D mass, then this is the command that you use. Here you select them and then press enter. And then in the command bar, you please select here preview yes. So yeah, so that you can have a look on how it looks like. And you need to select here also in set all. So you click in set all and here you will only set one number and all the radius of the handles will be affected. So you don't need to do all of them one by one. So in this case, I already had it as 10. So I press enter and when you like them, then you just press enter again. And now you have like this blended edges in your model. So now what we want to do is to make this kind of profiles over here. So what I want to do is I will first of all create a new layer. In this case, I did one already named as profiles. So I will go to this layer and I will run the command dupe face border. Dupe face border and I just click on here and then I will select the surfaces what I want to duplicate the border from. When I do that, I just press enter and then I have here the curve, which is already in my profile layer. So now I will hide the roof and I will click in the color of the volume layer and I will just reduce the transparency like this. And now in the profile curve, I will draw a circle. So activate the circle command and exactly on its center, I will click and then I will set the radius to something like 0.03, maybe. It doesn't need to be big because they are only profiles. So now that we have this, I will go to this type of view and I will, using the gumball in this circular like thing in the gumball, you just extrude it up, and then you have kind of this extrusion. You click on it, and then you see in the properties panels that you have an open extrusion, so you just type cap, enter, and then you have this, yeah, like this result, which is a closed solid poly surface. That's exactly what we want. So now we want to multiplicate this profile along all our model. So to do that as fast as possible, you just run the array curve command. You click on the object to array, press enter, and then you select the path curve, which is this one right here. And in this case, I already had it, but I think you will have as default 2. Please, in the command bar, just press the items and select or type in 100, for example, and then you have this like so. Then you press enter, and then you will activate the roof, and we need to trim these things. So to do that, we need to select only the bottom part of our roof, because if we just run trim, then our profiles will be trimmed until the top part of our roof, and that's something we don't want. So you run the trim command, and you select the cutting objects. If you want to select a part of a poly surface, in your keyboard, you press Ctrl Shift, and then you just click on the, sorry, this I will lock. Use your layers to kind of make your workflow efficient. So you just select the bottom part of your surface. And like that, you just press enter. And now you select the objects to trim, which is the top part. You select them. I need to wait a little bit because my laptop is very slow. So let's just wait a tiny bit. Am I going too fast? Maybe yes, but I wanted just to, yeah, just to catch up. Maybe we won't have time to finish everything I wanted to. Okay. Now that we have this, let me put this down. Now that we have this over here, then as we can see, we just press enter. And as we can see, these profiles are kind of overpassing the surface because the circle is exactly in the middle of this line. So what we can do is we can use a command named dup edge, and we will select the edges to duplicate. So it's gonna be this curve right here, this one, and this one. Then when you have it, you just press enter. And then with the gumball staying in this selection, you just extrude it using the circular part of the gumball. And now you have this surface that we can also use to trim. So you will use again the trim command, and we will select the cutting objects with Ctrl Shift in our keyboard. And we will be just selecting these parts over here, and then this surface. And once we have that, we press enter, and then we select the objects to trim, which are these ones. And once it's kind of done, you press enter. I don't know why this one didn't work. Maybe I didn't select it. Let me run that again. Cutting objects is this one. I don't know why this one is not working. But what I can do is kind of just move one of these profiles. So what I can do is I can use copy, and I can move it from here to just, I will just do it fast. So just do it like so. Once I have this, I will select these profiles, and to do it very fast, I will just go in the top view and then just run mirror. And from the middle point, I will just move it like so. To be very fast and efficient, then please use the here in the bottom part of the Rhino, just click here in the ortho to have everything kind of orthogonal and working. So this is where we were exactly. I did it very fast, so I will just delete this. Now we will model the last thing, which will be the stairs. And for this, that's where I realized there was something wrong with the Zoom. Again, I'm so sorry. But then what we do with the stairs, we need to do a calculation. I want the stairs to go from here and then kind of go spiral to this kind of bridge that joins both volumes. I think it's a nice idea architecturally. So for that, I will turn on the guide curves. This was the previous one. I will turn on the guides curves and I will select the circle. This is why we always keep the guide curves. We select the circle and then we run the project to C-plane command. Once we do that, we delete the input objects. We click here in no, we don't want to delete the input objects. And now here we have this circle, which is the one we will use for our spiral staircase. So I will create a new layer named stairs. Let's say stairs 1, because I was already doing some. I will change the color. And then what I will do is just hide my guides layer. Sorry, I select the circle that I projected, right click, change object layer. And then here I am. The stairs I want to, well, the circle, I will move it here because I want this point to represent where the stairs will end, meaning the entrance of the building. So I want it to be there. So now we will do the calculation for the steps. So in the command bar, we type notes and then we type calc. So we will do a calculation. I will explain it fast because this is what I was doing already. But what we need to do first is we need to, first of all, be in our stairs layer and place a point in the center of this circle. Then I will draw a line. And in the command bar, I make sure that it's set to vertical. So I click here in vertical, and like that, I make sure that my line is only drawn vertically. So then I press click wherever the stairs will end. In this case, it will be here. That's where it will end. And then I will use this calculation right here to do the division of our circle, which will represent our steps. So the calculation here is to do the total height divided by the riser height, and that's the total of steps. To know the total height, you can select the line that you just draw and check in length. You use the command length, and then you have the 16.30 meters that I have here written down. So divided by 0.17, which is the racer height, you have 95.88 steps, but we round it up to 96. So that's the next step. We will select our circle and we will run the command circle. Divide. Divide, and then you just press enter again. And the numbers of segments, we write 96 and then press enter. And then the next step is we need to kind of also know the width of our stairs. So we will offset this curve, the circle, towards the interior. Here I have a distance of 10, but of course I don't want my steps to be 10 meters wide. I will click on there and maybe I will do something like 3. And now I will draw a line from the center point to where I want my stair to start, which in this case would be this point right here. Press enter, and I will draw another line to the next point. Now we will run the command curve boolean. I will select all the intersecting curves and press enter. And now make sure that in the command bar, your output is set to surfaces, and then you just click in the interior of this intersection, press enter, and here you have your first kind of step. But now we will select it, and in the gumball, you click in this circle, and then you extrude it for 0.17, which is our razor height. And then what we need to do is we will kind of do a helix. We type the helix command, the start of axis, the end of axis, and then the radius. It's kind of, we will place it here. So right after our step. And before you click, make sure that the turns are set to 0.75 instead of 1. You will see that why before. So you just click on there, and then you have kind of this. And this is the reason why I said just place to 0.75 your turns, because the curve ends here. If we place our turn at 1, then it closes kind of until 360 degrees, and it's kind of doing the whole spiral. But since I want my stair to finish there, then it's only 1/4 of it. That's why 0.75. Now we will use the array polar command. You select the objects to array, press enter, and then we select the center of the polar array. The number of items will be 96, so you type 96, enter. And please, after you do something, also check the set offset, set to 0.17, so you click on there and just type 0.17. And then now we need to draw the angle to fill. For this, I will turn off my grid snap, and I will kind of press here where the helix starts, and I will kind of continue the turn until it finishes. So I will continue the turn towards my stairs until the helix ends, which is more or less on this point. And then I click in there. Sorry, I did it wrong because I have my, I will do it again. I will turn off the roof because it's annoying. And I will also turn off the whole thing because I don't need anything else. So I will select my step, and then I will run polar array, or array polar, sorry. If you want to be also very fast, you can just right click on your mouse to rerun the previous command. Okay, so the center of polar array is here, number 96, enter, and then the angle to fill, we will click here, and then we just go all the way around until, if you kind of hover on this end of helix, it will tell you in which point it ends. So that's where I want it to end. So I press enter, or I click again, and then I have this staircase, which is exactly what I want. So for that, I press enter, and then I have my stairs. Okay, now to finish the stairs, I will just create a block, kind of fast to do the railing. For this, I can do it manually. I will go to the top view, and I will just change my view to shaded. And the stairs, I will reduce the opacity here in the colors just to have a better view. Now I will activate the circle command, and somewhere wherever I want the railing to be, I click, and then I kind of do the radius, which can be 0.02 or 0.3, press enter. Now this circle, if you go to the perspective view, it's in the C-plane, like it's not on the step. But since I know that this step is 0.17 units height, so I can move the circle just 0.17, enter, and now it will be exactly on the top. And I go to the top view again, and I just, if you want to copy paste something, you can press Alt on your keyboard, and then with this little grid that you have on the gumball, you can drag your object here, and then you let your, or release your click, and then you have the copy. So with these two circles selected, you will use the gumball and extrude them by clicking here in the circular part, and you will type 1.1 because that's more or less the height of the railings. So you select both, you run cap, and then what we will do is we will make them a block. So you will run the block command. You need to select the block base point. I always like selecting something in the middle. So in this case, this middle point of this step. And then you can name your block as ever you want. Here I can name it as railing 1, for example. And now you have it as a block. What we will do is run exactly the same, the polar array for this. So you will run array polar. You select the objects to array, press enter, and then you select the center of the polar array. And here is also a very nice thing from Rhino. It kind of remembers what you did. So you don't need to change anything. The number of items it's set already to 96. You press enter. And the set offset is already also set to 0.17. So the only thing you need to do is to define the angle. So you press here where your helix starts, and we repeat the same. You kind of go all the way around until the end of this helix. And if you do this, then you kind of will have the reflection of the point where you need to be finishing. You click and then press enter, and then you have this railing all over your stairs. And since it's a block, if you edit one thing, then everything will change. I will show you that in a second. We are missing the top part of the railing. So that's the last thing we will see in this part. So you activate the line command, and you will draw from the center of this pipe to the center of this other one. You press enter, and then you do the same for this one. So from the center of this pipe to the center of this one. Press enter. Actually, I will remove these menus. I don't need them anymore. And then you can run the pipe command, sorry. You select this one, and here I like the cap to be rounded. So in the command bar, just select here cap round. And then on the start radius, I have it to 0.01. So you can do something like 0.02, or I think 0.01 is good. Enter, and then again 0.01 to define the end radius, enter, and then you just press enter again, and you have now this kind of rail. And you will repeat the same for this one. So click here, and then since everything is kind of memorized, you press enter, 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 and then you have this pipe. So you select both closed solid poly surfaces, and with the Alt, if you press Alt on your keyboard and then you drag them down with the gumball, then you have a copy of this. So let's say you want this to be your railing design. So let's turn this to a block. We select these pipes that we just created, and then we type block, and then the base of the point of the block, as I said, I always like setting like a middle point. So in this part, I will set this point, the middle point. And then I will do something like railings 2, enter. And then we repeat exactly the same. We do an array polar. So we do array polar, select the objects to array. So I will select the block, enter, and then the central of the polar array. The number of items will be the same, so enter. The angle to fill will be, so I will draw it again, just to be very precise. I go all the way around, and then I will go until the point, and then I click or I press enter. And in that way, I have now the railings of my stairs. Now, since this is a block, if you edit it, so you can go to block edit. If you select the block to edit, for example, this one, let's say you don't want this bottom thing to be there anymore, you just select it, you delete it, you press OK, then everything will be kind of updated to that. So this one, you can do the same. You right click to run the same command, block edit. This one, you delete this one, okay? And now everything is like this. So like this, we have like a massing, this I will delete. Like this is how we have our final result. I will select everything from here just to keep the stairs. So for that, I will go to my selection menu, selection filter menu, I press Control on my keyboard and I select points. I select my points and I can just create a new layers and just name it like something different, change object to layer, and I will hide it, and the curves as well. So now you have something like this. Now, for the time, we won't manage to finish everything that I wanted to do, which was generating the topography. And then I will share my screen to share you the presentation again. So this was the result. If you can see, it follows the same concept. Of course, we didn't develop it. We didn't achieve a lot. For example, the floorings, that's something that you can do, for example, by using the Duke face borders of the volumes and then doing the planar surface. And then that planar surface, you extrude it and then you just copy it into the several levels. So all these commands we already know from this little time that we were connected. So I encourage you to just continue and keep on following a model that can end up like this. Also, I will stop sharing this to share you some other thing before this ends. I prepared, this will be actually for sale in a very attractive price, and you can already find it in my website, but I prepared for you literally a manual that follows this this concept. Let me open it right here. While this is happening, while I open this, can you please just text me in the comments if it was too fast, if you liked it, if you enjoyed it. Where are you from? That was also one of the questions from the beginning. And okay, now I will share with you my screen, which is this one. That was great, thank you. I'm sorry, but thank you for your comment. This is the step-by-step workshop guide that I prepared for you. So like it will be for sale, as I mentioned. But it's literally a booklet where you can find all the step by steps, and it covers also all the commands that we use in each section. It's a really detailed guide for you to use it. And here we only covered until here, but there were a lot of questions of the stairs on my Instagram, so you can check here all of the details. And then this is the part where we couldn't achieve because of the time that I realized there was a problem in the Zoom. But here I explain how to build a topography curves. The only thing that I am missing to mention is that in this part, I download the things from Cat Mapper. So you can use Cat Mapper and then follow this along. Okay, and Cat Mapper is for free, I think, only until 1 kilometer, 1 square kilometer area, and that's more than enough for this project. So this is a guide that it's for sale, and this is kind of just a final note. And also you can find it in my website, and you can also find it in my Instagram. I will be sharing some of these, and it's in a very accessible price as well. So a little bit quick, but very interesting. I'm from France. I am sorry that I was too fast, but I'm very happy you liked it, and I'm glad I realized there was a problem before ending, like before now, because it would have been very embarrassing. But thank you all for connecting. I will let you know more news in my Instagram, and hope to see you then in one of the next workshops.